Now, to understand more about U.S. Madam Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit to China, its impacts, and the tension between Taiwan and the People's Republic of China, we will have a discussion with University of Padjajaran International Relations expert Teuku Rezasyah. And of course, it's always a pleasure to have you on board, Pa. There's no one else better than having Pa Teuku Reza to be here with us discussing about this issue. Now, Pa Teuku, again, we've already seen a lot of supports and also backlash. And as we know, the geopolitical relationship between Washington and Beijing is the most important nation-to-nation clash on the globe. Before we talk, before we ask about the significance, what do you think the consequences that U.S. will face after this visit of Nancy Pelosi to Taiwan, and what could be the response from China?
Let me start with an African proverb here. When elephants fight, the grass will suffer. And the fight between the US and China is inevitable.
Right.
The US has been the superpower since 1945 until today. And China climbs the ladder from regional power, becoming great power, and then a reluctant superpower. China is there. Using any kind of indicators, it is very difficult to say which one is the true superpower between the two.
Right.
But seen from the perspective of China, Taiwan is part of China. Taiwan is a renegade province. Taiwan will come back to China one day. So, considering the greater might of China, its greater strategic partnerships all over the world, we can understand why China has a bigger whip at the moment to deal face to face with the US. So I could imagine this is a very difficult situation for the US, even though Nancy Pelosi is not coming from the executive branch of the power.
Right.
She represents the legislative. So this is the leeway for Pelosi to say, and also this is the leeway for the US to say that we remains adhere to the one China policy. That's one.
Yeah.
And secondly, Pelosi, she didn't talk about the Taiwanese independence. She didn't talk about that. And she didn't give any promise. So this is the bottom line we believe could reduce the tension. Even though the increasing tension is there. China has conducted more and more, the Taiwan is called this penetration. The Chinese call this training or exercise, but the heat is there. And for countries in the east, in Eastern Asia, this is a near war situation. But seeing from Southeast Asia, I could say that there is a long-term conflict here between China and Taiwan since the era of Mao Zedong, since the era of Kuomintang against Gunzandang, or the communists against nationalists. And the nationalists lost the war at the time and they had to move to Taiwan. And since then, even though Taiwan say, I am a self-declared country, and the government in Beijing always say that you are always part of us. And for the US is in limbo at the moment. Does the US have a capacity at the moment to fight at two different fronts at this very moment? One in Europe, in the European theater against the Russian,
Right.
Supported by NATO countries, and in East Asia against China, supported by its AUKUS or Quad countries. I think the US has no guts to fight, to conduct a limited war or fight at two different zones. I think the US will know its limit, and China also knows its limit. Because a limited war, a local war, still affects stabilities in the region. That's one, and also it may invite the involvement of nuclear arsenals, for example. It may involve nuclear issues. So I think that the two sides understand their limit, because they understand that once the military issue come to the surface, it would mean mutually assured destruction. I think they know the limit. I think China will not attack Taiwan because there are huge economic and consequences.
Yeah, but what would probably or possibly be the push of the button here? I mean, as you mentioned, this is not the first time that U.S. is trying to interfere
Yes.
To China and Taiwan
Yes.
matter. But on the other hand, Speaker Nancy Pelosi already mentioned that this is just a regular visit. It's nothing about the taking over Taiwan from China and all that. But as we know that what happened in Eastern Europe might also happen here in the Indo-Pacific, would it be possible having U.S. trying to interfere more and more in this area?
Well, if I put myself in the eyes of the Washington, D.C., as a superpower, U.S. needs to convey its presence all over the world, needs to garner support from fellow democracies. The U.S. needs to show its readiness to work in tandem with Taiwan for any kind of situation. So this is from the U.S. perspective. Yeah? But the consequences is there. Yeah? The consequences is there that China may advance towards Taiwan. For example, by restricting export and import from and to Taiwan, and producing sanctions, and learning from the history. There is something China has not done. For example, in 1962, during the Cuban Missile Crisis, to prevent war, the U.S. conducted a quarantine of Cuba. Will China do this? I think China is a learning society. China has best practices of the world record. So this is something China has not done yet, to quarantine Taiwan.
Right.
But considering also the technology, the U.S. can still come and go to Taiwan through airlift, for example. If we recall the history of President John F. Kennedy when he visited Berlin, and Berlin was encircled by the Soviet power at that time, he said, "Ich bin Berliner. I'm one of you, Berlin people." So at the moment, the situation is, I can call it the tug of war here. Stability needs to be made here.
Yeah.
But one thing, the good thing is Pelosi didn't say that she supports Taiwan independence.
Yeah, that's right.
That's one thing. She remained agreed to the executive opinion on the one China policy. So this is the good thing. And from the U.S. perspective, this is the visit of a parliamentarian, not an executive.
What about the consequences to the both presidents, Xi Jinping and Biden?
Well, Biden is sick at the moment, yeah. And
Yeah, I mean, I heard that he is not really suggesting Pelosi to visit
Yeah,
Taiwan
he's-
at the moment. But at the end of the day, the decision was up to Pelosi herself. And she did it, she made it.
Well, we need to open the black box of the U.S. Yeah, because this is quite unique here. Because I haven't read her interview with regard what happened to the country when Biden is he's having the second COVID at the moment. What happened to Biden? But to be someone in that position, someone that senior, yeah, she may have ambition. Yeah.
Yeah.
At least she would like to put herself at the same level with Margaret Thatcher, for example. Margaret Thatcher is an iron lady
Yes.
who was capable of making tough decisions. During
Yeah.
that time, there was a war between Argentina and UK regarding one island.
Right.
It was called the Falkland Island or Malvinas. But I think at the moment, the level of the technology is at par, yeah?
Yeah.
At par. And China has sacred technologies. China has achieved a level called Star Wars technology. China has planned to put someone on the moon to become the next Neil Armstrong. I think both of them will calculate very much on this, especially on the U.S. side. The U.S. has no guts to
Well,
fight at two different fronts at the same time.
At
No,
the
they have
same
no guts
time.
for that.
But
So
yeah, sorry, Padres. I think it's good that actually Alia touched base on this, but you were saying that actually, is this only for personal based use? Because we know that from her perspective, she said the trip has gone, well far. She captured attention of the world, female political icon, as she said. She defied all male top echelon to the Chinese communist leadership and refused to be bullied down, sat down with another pioneering female leader, President Tsai. But like as you know, as stated before by Alia, there was a lot of also backlashes coming from the United States. One of which is Phil Mudd, a former FBI and CIA. He said, "I agree, she had the right to go, but why does she have to do it? What is the upside?" A former U.S. ambassador to China, Max Baucus, told a reporter that said that she should not have gone. The goal of U.S. foreign policy is to reduce tension with China, not to increase tension. So do you think this will increase, like you were saying? Maybe U.S. doesn't have the guts and China doesn't have the guts, but this would propel a little bit, by U.S. and maybe China seeing this. Oh, you're already stepping over the line. I'm going to give you a comeback for that.
Well, this is the mystery in diplomacy. Oftenly, credit may be gained from this kind of visit, and also credit has been received through the support coming from the 30 Republicans inside the U.S. Parliament. So in this case, the score is 50-50. Is it a successful episode or it is a failed episode? But the damage has been done.
Yes, she's there already.
She's there already.
Yeah. Yes.
But the bottom line is he didn't say unnecessary things towards the leadership in Beijing.
Okay, so your stand hold on that she did not make any comments or any suggestions or whatnot, even though she did make a statement that democracy should be upheld if the country itself wants to have its own sovereignty, right? Again, Pak Reza, there is, to come to that, do you think that this, like you were saying, that war is already happening right now?
Yeah.
What could be more that we can see from China's counterback to seeing Nancy Pelosi coming to Taiwan?
Well, this is an ammunition for China's global diplomacy. Ammunition.
Yeah.
That the U.S. has crossed the line. And then for this purpose, I think China could do a lot of sanctions. China has the money, China has the power, and China knows that at the moment there are 14 embassies holding Taiwan's representative. There are 14 altogether in this world. For example, in Africa, Belize, Eswatini, Guatemala, Haiti, and then Honduras in Central America, the Holy See, until countries in the South Pacific, such as Marshall Island, Nauru, Palau, and Tuvalu. And these 4 countries in South Pacific, they are weak. They are economically weak. And then I think China will offer further aid and trade for these fragile countries at the expense of Taiwan. So I think this is the next step of Beijing. And the other steps are maybe encouraging countries all over the world who have Taiwan de facto representative. For example, in the area of culture or trade, to expel the Chinese diplomats. Because for countries who say that they believe in the one China policy, they need to pay more attention on what Beijing is going to say. So this situation has put Taiwan in a very difficult situation.
Yes. We're talking about Taiwan, right? What about the support from the United States itself to Taiwan in this case?
Well, there are many agreements with the government of Thailand, with Taiwan. There are many confidential agreements with the government of Thailand, not open to the public. But the bottom line for the U.S. is always there to support Taiwan at any means, at any cost.
Right.
And what U.S. is going to do is to convince its democratic partners all over the world that this is the time for all of you to share the responsibilities. For example, countries like Japan, South Korea, and then Australia, and maybe these 3 countries, they need to show responsibilities by supporting the U.S. And also the U.S. also would like to convince other countries who are considered non-aligned. The U.S. wants to know the true face of these non-aligned countries, because for them, the devil we know is better than the devil we do not know.
Yeah, right. But sorry, go ahead, Alia.
No, I was just mentioning about the U.S. has AUKUS.
Yes.
Also, Quad as trade partners
Yes.
as well. Do you think this will actually make China feel a little bit, at the corner and
Oh, yes.
troubled by this? How far will it?
If we
travel?
refer to the opinion from Wang Yi, China is always critical on the development of AUKUS, on Quad, because they know that underneath there are already a defense agreement at the bilateral level or at the trilateral level. They're always there. So AUKUS or Quad is only a name, because philosophically they have been trained. All these countries have been trained to be at the similar front. The exchange of technologies, for example, and then the training of senior officers. For example, if we go to a country like ANZUS, Australia, New Zealand, United States, if there is a dispute against another country, it is they are ready to have the top one coming from Australia, and the second one coming from the US, and then the third layer of leadership coming from New Zealand. They can operate automatically because of the same heritage, same culture, same training background, same military ethics. So for China, China finds itself as at the center of the world. Other countries at the periphery. Other countries are supposed to, the Chinese call it kowtow, meaning you need to bow to China 9 times. You are not supposed to produce decisions which are against the interests of China. You need to report to China on a regular basis. Yeah. So this is the way of thinking of China. And China always find that the countries outside China they are peripheral. So China, if we put ourselves in the China's shoes, I think it is really embarrassing for China to see the peripheral countries are organizing themselves to fight against the center.
But Teuku Rezasyah, and also Alia, it's always, we need more time talking about, this kind of issues and this discussion, but we have to end it. But before that, just a very short answer. What do you think the sanction will be for Taiwan from China? The damage has been done. A very short answer, please, Bob.
China can survive.
China can survive. That'll be your final answer. That is Teuku Rezasyah, our University of Padjajaran International Relations expert. Thank you very much, Fab, for coming to our studio. It's always been enlightenment and very fruitful with our discussion. We'll see you again very soon.
I'm honored. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
All right, everyone, we're going to our first quick break of the day, but when we come back, we'll have the latest from Southeast Asia and around the world.
Yes, and later during the hour, I'll bring you the latest from the world of business. Stay here.